We are pleased to welcome you to the parallel session 4D of the T20 Summit 2022 with our theme, Enabling Policies for Digitalization in Agriculture. Now, before the event starts, I'd like to invite everyone to please be seated. We will begin very soon. And to start our session today, we already have here with us Ms. Agnes Mikalik, Managing Director, Global Solutions Initiative Foundation, who will open today's discussion. Agnes, please, the floor is yours.
So good morning, everyone, here in the room and online. Good morning to Professor Dr. Arif Satria, Professor Dami, Dr. Donna Gultam, Dr. Ramesh Chandi, and online Dr. Maximo Torreiro, as well as here in the room Dr. Jawo Ku. But most importantly, good morning to all the participants here in the room as well as online. You may know it or not, but you will be the most important contributors to today's session. At the Global Solutions Initiative, we have two main visions and goals. The first being multilateralism. We very strongly believe that only if we work together as a world community with all the different levels of participation, we can really achieve the success for solutions on the issues of today. And secondly, we believe in recoupling. Only if we align the economic, the social, and the environmental well-being of this planet, we can become a prosperous world community. It has been mentioned a lot in the past day that the T20 is the bank of ideas to the G20. And it is a pleasure to see that the T20 Indonesia has brought together some of the sharpest minds who bring about the most innovative ideas. And I can truly say that I'm personally very happy to see so much recoupling in what I have seen in the past days. So thank you for that. But when we see at the discussions that we have heard in the past day, we can have the feeling, and it is true, that there is a lot at stake. And I want to take a remark from the opening ceremony that will be our guiding principle for today. We all know the problems. Now let's get to the solutions. And this is why I'm very, very thrilled about today's session. We've heard it in Professor Dami's session yesterday. There is a lot at stake regarding agriculture and the food system. And there were a lot of hints on innovation and how this can help in managing some of the flaws that we see in the system. And also Professor Bambang, who I just spoke 5 minutes ago, he said the same. We need to also look at the tech solutions and at digitalization. And so let's take this session today to do a real deep dive into the digitalization in agriculture. Because in the vast landscape of angles, arguments, challenges and hardships related to the future in agriculture, we want to take a breath together and today set ourselves some clear goals. What are our visions for the future of agriculture to make it more integrating and sustainable? And what is the common ground of all of the perspectives that we will hear today? And what is really the picture that we want to give to the G20 to set the course right? And so let's create this vision today really together, here in the room as well as online, and discuss. So please don't be shy later on in our plenary discussion. We really all want to hear from you. And I have the honor to say that this is just the starting point. This is one of many events and workshops that we will have together with Professor Dami, with Dr. Dil Rahut, with Dr. Heike Baumüller, and our expert Dr. Stefan Heinke from Bayer. And we will have many workshops and events that I will talk a little bit later about. But for now, thanks to the T20, thanks to Professor Dami, thank you for all in the room. Let's start this session.
Thank you, Agnes. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Aditya. I'm the head of agriculture research at the Center for Indonesian Policy Studies, or CIPS. I will be chairing today's session alongside my colleague, Elizabeth Schroeder.
Yeah, good morning and welcome also from my side. I'm Elizabeth. I work at the Global Solutions Initiative together with Agnes and Program Coordinator. We are a global multi-stakeholder platform with a big network of think tanks, and we provide research-based policy advice to the G20 and G7. We have been supporting the T20 since our inception in 2017, and this year under the German G7 presidency, we were co-chairing, or are still co-chairing, the T7 process. Together with IDOS. I should not drop that important part. We're co-chairs together with IDOS. And yeah, I will be supporting Aditya today during this session and look forward to hearing from all of you. And as Agnes already said, we mean all of you. We really want to engage with everyone here in the room and everyone who joined us online as well.
Check. Yeah. And we would like to extend our greetings to Professor Damayanti Bukhari, Professor Arif Satria, Dr. Jauku, and Dr. Maximo Torreiro, who is joining us online, and Dr. Dil Rahut, who is also joining us virtually. Now, honorable guests, welcome to the parallel session 4D on enabling policies for digitalization in agriculture. So, what we will be focusing on this session, we are trying to develop scenes and visions for a productive, sustainable, and inclusive digital agriculture in order to help kick off the multi-stakeholder workshop series with the same title that will be coming later this year and organized by Global Solutions Initiative. So our discussion today is guided by the question, what is the role of digitalization in achieving our vision of the agriculture of the future? And we are hoping to elicit some feedback, some perspective from you as experts, as co-chairs and as authors of the policy briefs at the Task Force 4. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome Professor Arif Satria, Rector of IPB University, to enter the stage.
Halo, oke. Baik, terima kasih. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang hadirin sekalian. Selamat siang, selamat pagi. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and good pleasure for me to attend this Task Force 4 at the T20 Summit 2022 in Bali, and hosted by the Global Solution Initiative. And as mentioned before, the Task Force 4 dealing with the topic on food security and sustainable agriculture, hosted by IPB University and CIPS. And of course, I would like to express my great appreciation to the speakers, Mr. Maximo Torreiro, Mr. Jawoko, who will share this opinion in this session, and sounding board Ibu Damayanti Bukhari, Mr. Dil Rahut, and the Global Solution Initiative. And welcome to all participants, both in person and online. And of course, in this occasion, I will share some thought based on our experience at IPB University to answer the guiding question of this session about what is the role of digitalization in achieving our vision of agriculture of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, a few years before COVID-19, at the end of 2018, IPB University developed a concept of Agro-Maritime 4.0, which motivated by the idea to solve the problem of food production and distribution, as well as to increase added value and efficiency along the food supply chain. We are aware that technology plays an important role in to achieve this goal, and it should be supported by AI, artificial intelligence, robotic development, information technology, management system, biotechnology, big data, IoT, machine learning, deep learning, and so on. This concept has underpinned the development of digital technology-based innovation at IPB University and encouraged its application in various business scales, range from small to large economic scales in collaboration with various stakeholders and the community. Digital technology-based innovations that have been developed cover all aspects from production, processing, and distribution and consumption. Ladies and gentlemen, for agriculture sector, the existence of 4.0 technology or digital technology is expected to improve on-farm and off-farm activities and management, as well as to solve problems with many social and economic aspects in agricultural practice. Smart agriculture use new and advanced technologies integrated into a system. It should enable farmers and other stakeholders within the agriculture from land to consumer to improve food as well as agri-industrial production and delivery of products. In on-farm advances, smart agriculture leads to the achievement of lower use of water, fertilizer, and pesticide by targeting more specific areas through the assistance of advanced technology, such as machinery and robots, various sensors for environment and climate, aerial imagery, information technology, and global positioning system, which are all interconnected. In other words, we would be more productive since we will have more precision, more advantage, more efficient, more safety, and more environmental friendly agricultural activities. Several applications of 4.0 technology that enhance precision agriculture include use of fuzzy system to diagnose pests and disease, bioinformatics and genetics algorithm to invent quality seed, automation of quality test tools to avoid crop damage, identification of soil fertility using neural network, smart system using remote sensing technology for planning land and water use, optimizing shortest routes in commodity distribution chains, and transparency of the flow of goods and money using blockchain technology and big data. In off-farm activities, the 4.0 technology would enable organizations to share information across traditional industry boundaries to open up new disruptive opportunities for manifesting sustainable agriculture and food production. Several applications of AI for agro-industry that have already been developed include product quality tests by non-destructive quality testing, chemoinformatics using simulation of a supercomputer, product sorting using intelligent vision, combination of chemoinformatics with parallel meta-heuristic and deep learning, intelligent agro-industrial resource planning to create smart production, logistic and marketing system, use of intelligent bioreactors and blockchain in smart agro-logistic system, and smart drone for distribution. All of this will give more advantage to farmers and wider social benefit around the world. From the perspective of environmental and climate change problems, the existence of 4.0 technology could significantly assist and improve the way to tackle global problems with more ideas and innovation. With the help of technology, the handling of environmental problems could be more transparent than before, could increase participation by all from community, government, and private sectors, and in tackling climate change problem. In the context of both mitigation and adaptation to climate change, the use of 4.0 technology could significantly improve our monitoring, measurement, prediction, and early warning system and evaluation system. For example, with the help of fire risk system, IBB already introduced the new innovation on smart fire risk system. Government and other parties could effectively manage the risk of land and forest risk that is changed due to extreme climate events. We can predict 6 months before. This will help. They will help us to contribute not only to climate change mitigation, but also to climate change adaptation aspect. I think there are many other ideas and innovation that could be developed by using digital technology, and universities need to strive to provide more advanced innovation. Of course, university cannot work alone. Collaboration with various stakeholders must be strengthened. Furthermore, technology transfer and serious and intensive assistance to farmers need to be enhanced as they are the key to success of agriculture in the future. Last but not least, I think what happened in developing countries is quite different with the developing countries, because in developing countries like Indonesia, we have the multiple class of farmers. We have many farmers 3.0 or farmers 2.0, and I think also we have many farmers of 1.0, even 0.0. I think it is very easy to jump from 3 to 4, like in Japan, like in Australia, like in Holland. But how to get together from 1.0 farmers, 2.0 farmers, 3.0 farmers to achieve 4.0, I think is our agenda. And I think we need to have the specific breakthrough strategy how to, again, to making the strategy no one left behind, like Sustainable Development Goals. So getting together to achieve 4.0 is very important. I hope this discussion can produce bright ideas that can be developed and implementation for advanced investment of agriculture in the future. Enjoy the discussion. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Arif Satria, for the opening remarks on the multiple benefits of smart agriculture, on more efficient use of resources, and of course the very important question how we make sure the different levels of farmers, 1.0, 2.0, can also use all of these innovations.
Before we hear our two keynotes on the topic, I would like to briefly acknowledge the participants that we have here in this session today, both here in the room and online. We cannot introduce everyone to everyone, unfortunately, given the time constraints, but from the registrations that we received for this session, I believe, who might be in the room and joining us on Zoom, might be representatives from NITI in India, the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, the Regional Office in Africa, the ADBI, GIZ, the World Farmers Organization, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Brazilian Agriculture Research Corporation Embrapa, Monash University in Australia, CARICOM, the Caribbean Community Secretariat, Wageningen University and Research in the Netherlands, IFPRI, International Food and Policy Research Institute, research institutions covering topics in the field from agroforestry to fishery, the think tanks from India, RAS, AREA, NITI I already mentioned in the beginning, and of course the Center for Transdisciplinary and Sustainability Science from IPB University. I'm not going to fact check with you. Feel free to check with your neighbors who's in the room. We are aware that the time of the session is not very accommodating for anyone located in Europe, Africa, or the Americas, because it's either very early morning hours or late in the evening. If you're with us online, welcome, and thank you for staying up late or getting up very, very early. But to all of you, welcome. As Agnes already said, we will want to hear from all of you later during our discussion. If you're online and you notice that you're in a webinar that does not allow you to turn on your video and audio, trust us, we will make it possible.
The discussion today, we have two notable experts joining us today to provide their perspective to our guiding question: what is the role of digitalization in achieving our vision of the agriculture of the future? First, I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Maximo Torreiro, Chief Economist of the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and to discuss the topic, to deliver his keynotes, he is joining us virtually. Without further ado, let's hear it from Dr. Maximo Torreiro.
Hi and good morning to all. I hope you can hear me well. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it's my pleasure to be invited to your event today to look together to the potential that digitalization has for the future of agriculture and share mutual insights to developing concrete policy recommendations for the digitalization in agriculture to enhance productivity, inclusivity, and sustainability. The digitalization issue has been pointed out as one of the catalysts in the G20 of Indonesia presidency, and today FAO is proud to contribute to the important discussions on the best ways to promote digitalization, develop digital skill communities, as well as encourage continuous global collective effort in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, which are one of the G20 priorities. Our world, as all of you know, is not starting today in the situation we will have like. We have a world with 828 million people affected by hunger, structural hunger in 2021, 150 million more than 2019, this is when COVID-19 started. Looking forward, projections are that nearly 670 million people, 8% of the world population, will still be facing hunger in 2030. Not only that, 3.1 billion people don't have access to healthy diets. So we need to find solutions, and we need to move fast if we want to achieve SDGs, especially SDG 2, which is zero hunger. And for that, we need to bring as much as innovation and technology as we can face. And COVID-19 has also served as an opportunity where we have seen digital technologies to excel. So what is our vision of agriculture in the future? And we call it agri-food systems. Our vision is to raise to the challenge, to bring science and innovation, data and digitalization, so that we can achieve or at least move to the correct trend in terms of reduction of undernourishment and, of course, poverty as a consequence. It's a world where we don't see differences between large farmers, medium and small farmers in terms of access to technology, in terms of processes that they can know to increase their capacity to move to version 4, as it was mentioned before. Honestly, we don't believe we need to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. We need to jump to 4. That's what we call leapfrogging. And digitalization, science and innovation will play a crucial role. What we are looking at the end of the line is a small farmer that can do precision farming, because if somebody in the agricultural sector needs to do precision farming, it's smallholders. And the reason is simple. They are the ones with the lower capacity or access to resources. So they are the ones that have to use the resources in the most efficient way. And to achieve that, they need to have access to precision agriculture. They need to use their fertilizers, their pesticides in the most efficient way. They need to have access to the information so that they can have the correct blending of fertilizers, so that they have the correct dosage of pesticides, or that they have the correct tools to do organic farming or agroecology. That type of information a large farmer normally will have, because they have the resources to get it and to get access to it through digital technologies. So we as international organizations, we need to provide, and as the private sector, we need to provide those international public goods. So digital and data-driven technologies in particular are one of the key accelerators and have transformational effects on our economies and societies, including agriculture and agri-food systems in general. They hold the potential to help us eradicate hunger, bridge the rural divide, empower youth and women to access information, technology and markets without compromising our planet's health. Now, where are we today and what is the potential? The transformation has been accelerated by COVID-19 pandemic and the need to better react and adapt to urgent global needs in a world that has become more fast-paced than ever. Digital transformation means that digital technology will soon penetrate our economy as a whole to both enhance the productivity of existing industries and also at the same time to generate new businesses. It is already doing that in the agri-food sector without any doubt. And there is still much to be done to explore the full potential of digitalization to the productivity, inclusivity, and sustainability of agriculture. And let me underscore the importance of inclusivity and sustainability. Because if we don't reduce inequalities in access to digital technologies, both in the cost of access and also in the physical access to it, we won't be able to achieve this goal. Digitalization and use of data in agriculture and artificial intelligence have an essential role to play to support evidence-based policy, planning, and implementation to improve efficiency in agricultural resources management, as well as reducing negative environmental impacts. Information and communication technologies can help agriculture to meet the growing demand for safe and nutritious food, because we can do traceability. We can use artificial intelligence for this. We can better manage natural resources. We can contribute to high-quality growth and productivity through precision farming. We can ensure inclusion if we do it properly, and if we accelerate through the international public goods to assure that the ones with less can have the same equal access to it. The ones with less can have the same equal access to it, and can contribute to achieving sustainable development goals. But it's not as a panacea, because if we don't do things correctly, again, it will accelerate inequalities, and that's something that we don't want to happen. On top of that, we know and already witness that digital technologies can bring further opportunities for the most vulnerable populations, including smallholder farmers and rural communities, providing them with tools and knowledge products in hand. Supporting the digital transformation and leveraging the potential of data and artificial intelligence as accelerators of this transformation is then essential to enable sustainable development with concrete impacts on the ground. It will actively work towards the removal of barriers to internal adoption, including for women, youth, rural communities, and vulnerable populations and groups. Through supporting initiatives that improve affordability, user capabilities, and that's essential because our rural farmers not necessarily will have the levels of education that you need. So we also not only have a gap in terms of access of the technology, but also a gap in terms of capabilities and infrastructure and access to infrastructure. And that's where we need to transform. We need to find solutions so that it's accessible to everybody, no matter you don't necessarily know how to read and write. And there are several initiatives that we can push for that. For example, in FAO, we're using the Food Icons initiative to try to bring a different language, a language of icons, that can help farmers that don't need to write through these drawings, which are based on science and evidence, so that they can know what they are doing through the digital technologies. The outcomes are more accessible and are looking to more accessible digital technologies to improve information, enhance market opportunities, increase productivity and resilience, and to contribute to environmental benefits and poverty reduction, integrated to the agri-food systems and programs, with particular focus on ensuring inclusion and affordable and equitable access to women, youth, poor, and vulnerable communities. Now, what are the key components that we must consider to be able to achieve this? First, on accessibility, we need to leverage digital potential for agriculture. It is essential that we address the digital divide and massify digital benefits while making sure to leave no one behind. And that's where the Broadband Commission is working with a huge set of partners to try to push this forward. Issues related to users' connectivity and capabilities are also critical issues in complex digital transformation that we must take into consideration. For the benefit of the so-called small players, too, that must be protected in secure policy environments that will enable them to use benefit from trade liberalization. In particular, the digital gender divide in rural areas causes multiple disadvantages for rural women. Inclusivity and the safeguard of basic human rights for all through affordable access to digital technologies, digital literacy, and digital public goods. All these are paramount to unleash the potential of agriculture and rural communities and reaping the dividends of the digital economy that's contributing to the 2030 agenda. Without the specific targeted measures, the digital divide will be exacerbated, increasing existing inequalities. And here is where we have to create these public goods of digitalization, of infrastructure, of capabilities through different ways of presenting things, like the food icons. Second, and linked to public goods of information, digital public goods must also be at the center of the new vision for digital agriculture worldwide. Again, let me repeat, precision farming needs to happen for small farmers. Digital infrastructure is still lagging in many places of the world. This includes digital networks, digital public infrastructure, and digital public goods. Creating demand in rural areas should be based on digital public goods provision using innovative models to enable knowledge transfer from the data platforms and knowledge bases to the field. Policies to enable the integration of open data, open models, and open content for actionable digital solutions are required for long-term solutions and sustainable success. By working more closely together with partners on better data and models and making them jointly available as digital public goods, we will achieve this goal of providing the same level of information that large farmers have today. Third, collaboration is central, and partnerships is key to the success of leveraging digital technologies for an in-depth agri-food system. We need to enable collaboration, we need to leapfrog from best practice. And finally, we also need to bring ethics, especially to artificial intelligence. The ethical issue of artificial intelligence has also recently shown true transformational potential to make agri-food systems more efficient, sustainable, and inclusive. Artificial intelligence can indeed benefit agriculture significantly across all regions of the world, including very different farm structures. It can help farmers better manage crops and livestock, detect pests and diseases, and optimize the use of labor, fertilizers, pesticides, feed, and water for better production. On the other hand, we must stay aware that the opportunities of artificial intelligence offers can also give rise to some economic, social, and ethical challenges and risks. The development of artificial intelligence technologies in agriculture should be based on the respect of human rights, animal welfare principles, environmental considerations for the management of natural resources, and the preservation of biodiversity and food safety. Dear colleagues, FAO is trying to accelerate this process. We have as one of our accelerators digital technologies and technology acceleration. And for that, the Director General launched something that we call the 1,000 Digital Villages. And these 1,000 digital villages is a composition of a package that we are applying in villages around the different regions of the world. They bring together e-production, e-village, digital village, e-production, which is basically precision farming for smallholders, e-village, which brings all the digital services at the village level for farmers, but also digital society. And what it is that farmers need to diversify their incomes. We need to link agriculture, with agrotourism. And that's where digital technologies can also play a crucial role to bring other sources of income to farmers that can accelerate the process. FAO is committed to promote multi-stakeholder dialogues, and we have developed the International Platform for Digital Food and Agriculture so that we can cooperate across the world through best practices. We are part of championing the efforts of ethical use of artificial intelligence, and we are working together with the Rome Call of Ethics on Artificial Intelligence launched in 2020 with the Pontificia Academy for Life, IBM, and Microsoft, with focus on the transformation of inclusive, responsible, impartial, reliable, and secure use of artificial intelligence. The IE Food for All initiative aims then to provide concrete and ethically founded solutions to the agri-food system. Our organization is also engaged in several joint efforts across the UN and with many partners in the world to try to accelerate this process. Ladies and gentlemen, information and communications technology can help and will help agriculture to meet the future demand and the agri-food system. But we need to cover all the challenges I have mentioned. It won't happen by itself, especially for the smallholders and for the excluded. That's where we need to create this transformation, and we need to bring all these interventions together. And remember that the most important thing is to create this equality and reduction of inequality. And digital technologies have enormous power for this through international public goods, through universal access, and through working together through partnerships to achieve this goal. Thank you very much for your attention.
This every day, all the data and information you gather from reading and learning and listening, you analyze them together and make decisions for your best, outcome. So the decision you kind of made to come to this event and join us today, that's also a decision. And those decisions, small decisions, that we make every day about up to 35,000 throughout 24 hours. And those decisions accumulate and contribute to impact. And this happens with or without digital tools or digitalization. But digital can accelerate this impact pathway, and I'd like to show how this is already being done and explored. Next slide, please. So the first story is about seed, and agriculture and productive and sustainable agriculture start from good seed. It usually takes at least 10 years to breed a new seed. And this is just too slow for farmers, especially smallholder farmers, to adapt to rapidly changing climate. So there are 11 gene banks currently operationalized and managed by CGIAR globally. And in those gene banks, we have many seeds already out there. We preserve them. We also characterize each of the seed performance under different climatic kind of stress factors, so that if there is a new challenge or new climatic or environmental conditions, then we can quickly find what's the most suitable seed in that environment and deploy it to the farmers. However, this process just takes so long. This called the seed discovery and dissemination process is very slow and labor-intensive work. So we started using this robot called small robot here. So what it does is instead of people going row by row and taking measurement, this robot just by itself automatically roam around the field and taking measurement. And through computer vision technology, it analyzes all the phenotypic kind of characteristics of the seed, and then that information is used by our scientists to quickly characterize what kind of seed will be most suitable to deploy. And this kind of shortens the process of seed discovery and also helps smallholder farmers to adapt to new climate change kind of challenges. Next slide, please. And yeah, Maximo mentioned precision agriculture for smallholder farmers, and this is one of such cases. So smallholder farmers in Southern Africa are using this low-cost, internet-connected sensor stuck in the soil, in the field, which transmits signals based on the reading of soil moisture conditions at different depths. This kind of sensor used to cost thousands of dollars 20 years ago when I was in school. But yeah, now it costs less than $50 per starter kit, and farmers are already using it to optimize their water management kind of management practices to protect their crops from drought. And this is also excellent educational tool in schools and NGOs and the youth groups. Okay, and next slide, please. This is another IoT, internet-connected kind of device. So in this case, this potato-shaped device is actually literally developed for potato farming. So you can plant this device in soil, and it comes with the internet connectivity, an array of sensors, and a battery life of about 1 year. So what this does is it grows, it's under the ground, and it captures all the environment kind of conditions that seed potato goes through. And when it comes to harvest, actually it's harvested together with the potato and travels through the supply chain together with potatoes. And through the supply chain, it also kind of continue recording like humidity, temperature, and other kind of conditions that might cause post-harvest losses. So this is a way to manage post-harvest losses digitally. Next slide. The digital technology also provide kind of enable organizations to be more efficient in service provision. There is an organization in Africa providing radio-based extension services to farmers. And the way they do is they broadcast radio show, and these are interactively kind of programmed, so farmers can call specific number to leave a voice message, and they can pick up some of the voice message and kind of reach out to the farmers and provide more information. The challenge they have is there are just so many voice messages, they cannot really humanly analyze all this data and listen to them and follow up with farmers. So in this case, we are developing a new kind of audio analytical kind of pipeline on the cloud. So whenever there's a new voice message come up, a machine will listen and analyze the content and provide information for the organization to actively target specific content to the farmers. Next slide, please. Right. So another area where a lot of technological advances are happening is up in the sky, in the space satellite area. Sentinel program by European Space Agency has been provided free and open access satellite imagery around the world for more than 5 years already. So there are a lot of industry and application has been developed. aided by very super computing the capacity around the world. So few companies kind of work together now to develop a land cover data set, also near real time, as soon as the satellite imagery becomes available. So now it was released just a few months ago this year. Every 5 days we have new map showing globally how those lands are managed and what kind of features on the ground at 10-meter resolution. This is just groundbreaking, opening up a lot of possibilities and opportunities to manage more climate risk actively. Next slide, please. And another area is climate forecast. Unlike weather forecast, climate forecast is really difficult and the uncertainty is quite high, especially for the sub-seasonal to seasonal forecast. This is the most kind of useful information that a lot of smallholder farmers are looking for, but accuracy and the timeliness and applicability for different agricultural sectors is quite still not very well developed yet. So there are a lot of activity going on, and there are a few private sector companies also providing this information as a service up to 6 months in advance, and it's becoming also very useful resource in many areas, including agriculture. Next slide. Yeah, so here just quick example to the audience. How many of you have purchased anything online for the last 5 days, for example? Okay, and did you buy something you already needed it, or you just realized you need it while browsing the online? And if you did, you've been nudged digitally. So a lot of the online retailers have been just for years analyzing your shopping patterns and in the Facebook what you are looking for, what search you are doing, so that they can target kind of nudge your behavior, purchasing behavior online towards certain types of outcome they desire. It could be often, for example, reduce stock of specific item for the specific time and location. So we are trying to use this kind of same approach, to algorithmic approach, to move people towards more sustainable development outcomes. So for example, in this case, we are analyzing people's kind of choice of menu and also cooking and eating outside, and coming up with different kind of algorithms, how we can push them toward picking up more nutritious food items. And yeah, with a lot of data become available. This is still experimental, but a lot of different ways that researchers are experimenting different ways to push people and nudge people toward more nutritious food and also reduce greenhouse gas emission in just everyday life. Next slide. Okay, just quickly, this is the last slide. One of the most interesting and important trends recently is the use of human-centered design approach. Just oftentimes, digital tools are not really making a lot of adoption and impact because they are often developed in very supply-driven way. So developers think they know what farmers need, what's really important, so I just keep pushing things away, pushing things through to the farmers, but farmers may or may not find that useful. So how we solve this problem? So there is a way to bring users, in this case farmers, from the beginning, so that we try to understand your problems and design solutions in a prototyping way together. And this is a very messy process. Starting from discover, there could be multiple ways that it easily go, and some may or may not be even digital, and it could be very nonlinear. You might have to come back. But this process will engage with users, and ultimately, kind of through the core design process, everybody will learn and just move step by step towards solving the solution. And this is still quite a new area, but by more focusing on the people and user of these digital tools, I think we can get to get to use the digitalization trend towards more sustainable food systems in the future. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koo. We still have some time. Now, would you share your perspective a little bit? In the G20 context, in your opinion, what can and should be done to make sure that these technologies and infrastructure, some seem to be low cost, yeah, are equally adopted in the rural areas of developing world.
Yeah, so one thing I realized just this morning is I didn't mention anything about policy, although the theme was the more policy angle. So one thing really critical, adding to what Maximo presented before me, is the connectivity, rural connectivity. If there's no connectivity, there is no digital, there's no impact, no digitalization. This is not something you can expect private sector to solve. So rural connectivity usually costs like 2 to 5 times more than urban area, but revenue is often only 10 times of the urban area. The private sector alone, they're not going to move into rural area providing that. So there should be more policy and creative ways to incentivize private sector to extending their network and providing connectivity to the rural area. Yeah, this is not easy. I don't want to put out policy recommendation without actually saying where to get the money and where to find the resources. In the U.S., yeah, I work in the U.S., and there is also a lot of active discussion to tax advertisement companies. So basically the idea is to tax who benefit from the rural internet. So I think identifying that sector and revenue generation scheme, either agriculture or not in rural area, and finding solution creatively together, I think that will be really the key.
Thank you very much. Now that we have yeah. Thank you. Now that we have gained knowledge from our two experts, I would like to now invite the participants attending here and online to share visions of a sustainable agriculture future and their thoughts of the chances for digitalization in the agriculture. Now I'm also inviting two of the members of the sounding board for the upcoming workshop series. Professor Damayanti Bukhari, please join us in the stage. Professor Damayanti is the lead chair of Task Force 4 and professor at IPB University. And also Dr. Dil Rahut, who's joining us online. Dr. Dil is Vice Chair of Research and Senior Research Fellow at the Asian Development Bank Institute, or ADBI. We would also like to invite participants joining online to share their thoughts through the chat box. So our colleagues on the chat will forward your questions and remark to us, or we can also ask you to speak directly. And also to make the session more interactive, we are inviting online participants to submit your thoughts in the form of a word cloud. So you'll be seeing a link to the word cloud on the Zoom chat room. I can see it from here, but I'm trusting that my colleague is doing it on the background, where you can submit a few words that describe your vision or take on the role of digitalization in agriculture based on the previous keynotes and presentations. Yeah, so we shall start with participants joining here at the venue. Anyone who wishes to share their thoughts and vision of a sustainable future of agriculture, in your opinion, what would the role of digitalization look like?
Okay, Agnes, you go first. I'll come to you with the mic.
So first of all, thank you for raising this important topic, because I think this was very inspiring, especially from our panelists and Dr. Jawu, that I learned a lot today from you as well as from Maximo Torreiro. Yesterday in your session, Dami, I think there was one notion which I would also like to stress today, and maybe there are comments from the room or from online on that. When we talk about the digitalization of agriculture, we always also hope that, of course, this will benefit climate issues. And The other side of digitalization, of course, is that also digitalization has its costs on the climate. So that's why I think in your session yesterday, there was a lot of stress about putting also green technologies into the system. And so I was wondering, maybe Dr. Jawu, how do you see that perspective? How far are we on that? How green are the technologies that we are having in place right now in terms of agriculture?
Okay, how green the digital technologies are in terms of climate? Yeah, that's a difficult question. So there are ways to reduce use less electricity. And actually, I felt guilty traveling all the way from DC to here. But yeah, so this kind of virtual kind of meeting space and virtual gathering could also reduce such greenhouse gas impact. And just mostly from the research side, identifying where we really have opportunities to reduce such greenhouse gas and climate impact, and also providing kind of analytical tools that used to be only kind of reserved for very skilled researchers are now democratized, and many people are accessing freely available tools and data to make better decisions. So I think collectively we can change how we make decisions, how we use data, and how we can use technologies in more meaningful and climate smart ways. I think that will happen with or without us recognizing, and I think we have to, we will also go together through that journey. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I can add that we are very happy that you're here and that you made the long journey from the US to be with us. There was another question.
Professor Arif? Yeah.
Thank you. I think comment regarding how important we need, if we have the equal access for digitalization for smallholders, I think it is okay, it's fine. But the issue is how we can classify the area for digitalization. The area of village wherein the density of labor, of farming labor is very high, we have to be careful about it. For example, if we use drone, if we use drone for fertilizing, only for 1 hectare, we need only 10 minutes. And the cost is about $10 per hectare, and only 10 minutes. It's very cheap, it's quite cheaper than using labor. But if we use that, and there is no special affirmative to compensate the labor, I think it will be a problem of unemployment. So I think it is very, very serious in developing countries like Indonesia. But if in this area wherein the density of farming labor is very low, and then I think using drone is very, very efficient and effective. So I think it is kind of the wisdom how to use digitalization for developing countries like Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you so much for reminding us of that.
I see from the online participants, Dil is raising his hand. Dil, please.
Can we have Dil here on the big screen?
The two questions from my side. One is like when you talk about, like as Maximo pointed out, about inclusivity. If you look at agriculture, I mean, almost 50% of the farmers are females. So through digitalization, it's very important that we also bring in female farmer into the process of development and the use of digital technology. So Maximo, what are your thoughts on that? And my second question is also, I think, it's to Zhao as well as to Maximo. When you talk about, it may not be very related to technology, digitalization, but when you're talking about going net zero carbon emissions on one hand, on the other hand, we are talking about precision agriculture and allied technology. How do you balance it in the sense that if we move too fast for net zero carbon emissions, would it disrupt the food security and the livelihood of the smallholder farmers? Thank you.
Mo, would you like to respond?
Should I answer that?
Sure, please go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so three things. The comment about the drones. I think we need to be careful here. First of all the digital instruments that we use are instruments, are tools. What matters is what is the content behind those tools and how people can access to that and how they can use, and that's the capability issue. Now, the major need for smallholders is that we have scale neutrality. And as correctly was pointed out, the drone could be too expensive for a small farmer. But that's where sharing happens. No? In the case of tractors, we have Uber Tractor, for example, where we are creating the scale neutrality through an institutional innovation. The same should apply to drones. But the competition with labor is real, and it's something that we need to look at it very carefully. Look at what has happened during COVID-19 and the automation of digital platforms for e-commerce. That has completely changed the way labor force operated. And when you have cheap labor force, like in the rural areas in Indonesia or in many countries in the world, then you are competing with that and you can displace part of this labor force. That's why we need to look at digital technologies more comprehensively and holistically. It's not just e-production to improve intensification and productivity, but it should also be creating other new alternatives like e-services and like e-village that I was referring to, which could create alternative of jobs for farmers, not just to do productivity, but also to find alternative jobs. Because you will be releasing time of these farmers, because they will have more time to do other things. The drones will provide them information that could make them more efficient in the way they deploy fertilizers, for example, and that will give release some time to them to do other activities. And that's where we need to figure out how those other activities could happen if we want to minimize. But if we don't think of those things, like it was said, then we could create a problem in terms of unemployment, which you don't want to happen. Regarding the question of gender, I think here is where a lot of innovation needs to happen. Because normally, what digital technologies can do is to reduce and give more access to female laborers in the agricultural sector that they don't have before. And that goes from digital finance, where it makes it a lot easier for them to be part of the digital finance system that before they couldn't do, because the traditional way of information is based on ownership of assets. And if you don't have the asset, like normally they don't have their name in the plot title, they won't be able to access to finance. But with digital technologies and artificial intelligence, we can provide risk scoring that will allow these female farmers to have access to finance. The same thing on other types of activities, but we need to create technologies that are also gender biased so that we can assure the inclusion. But we need to find the reasons of the exclusion and how digital technologies can accelerate that process so that they can bring up a solution to them. That has to be from the design. It's not just deploying the technology, it will resolve the problem. That's wrong. That won't happen. That will only accelerate the discrimination and the differences and the inequalities. And finally, in terms of intensification and emissions, again, the way I see digital technologies is the way in which I can produce more efficiently. For example, in food losses, if I am able to use tracers on with digital technologies to identify hotspots of losses and find solutions, technical solutions to that, I will be reduction of emissions on production, and also in waste, I can reduce emissions of waste. So those are the ways I see we can provide the mechanisms to use this technology, this instrument, to minimize emissions so that we can assure sustainability.
And we have also some interventions from the chat room. I have one from... Okay, we'll be taking one more question from the floor, and then the question from Antoine Cantiza from online participant.
I love that I see so many hands raised. I think you were the first. I think, did you want to respond to? Okay, then I will go to the back.
Thank you very much. My name is Sahara. I'm from IPB University. My question is for Maximo. We know that digitalization includes many institutions. In the case of digital agriculture in Indonesia, it involves several institutions, for example, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Information, and etc. This situation, of course, will lead to a coordination issue. We identified, based on our research, there are at least 14 regulations should be followed in order to digital agriculture digitalization, I mean. My question is, what kind of institutional setup should be established in order to increase digital transformation and smallholder access to digital technology? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. And look, there is no one solution for every country. Every country will change. There are countries that are doing vertical integration in the process of decision, like creating super ministries that will control environment, digital technology access, and also content in the part of agriculture. And there are countries which are creating basically mechanisms to share information. But it's exactly what is the systems approach, no? So digital technology is a system approach. You need to deploy the cables, that's infrastructure. You need to deploy the content, that science and agricultural sector could be, and you need to create institutional innovations, as I was mentioning before. International public goods, for example. And that's where you need to combine different ministries and you need leadership behind it. So one of the ways we're trying to find solution to this is to bring the International Platform of Digital Food and Agriculture, where we are trying to bring best practices across the world on how these institutional designs have been implemented and which ones have worked, which one has not, because we also need to learn from the failures. Normally, we only talk about the good things, but we need to talk about the bad things also, because that's how we learn. So I think the best way to move ahead to resolve the challenge that you have is to learn from others. For example, there are countries that have developed legislation that facilitate that process. This has happened enormously in e-money, in electronic financing of money. It is happening now in food banks. It is happening also in other types of mechanisms. So that combination of good legislation that is cross-cutting across sectors helps enormously to minimize the challenges you have. But we need to learn from practice around the world. And that's where we are trying to bring this platform to life.
Thank you. More question from the floor, and then we go to the online participant. Yeah.
I think the gentleman was first. Sorry.
Thank you. Just following up on what has been discussed, especially on the providing access to finance, to especially to women included in the digitalization process of the agricultures. This is kind of like a bit, it's not a question, it's just a kind of like a bit of point of view. So in most of the cases, at least I know in Indonesia, the policy related to digitalizations and also the food security and the agricultures, somehow it's still unsync with the financial services regulations. Where, you know, for example, banks are quite reluctant to provide financing for the farmers because they know that it's a kind of like a very long break-even business, and also there's a higher risk of bad credits at the end because of the uncertainty of the climate and other things. And while at the same time, the multi-finance as an alternative to provide the access to financing for the farmers. Is also being regulated very tightly, and that's also kind of like reducing the potential of access for the farmers to get that. While at the same time, we know that, you know, introducing a new technology or digitalizations of agriculture is also required, at least at the first stage, educations and also quite an investment that required also some funds. To make sure that, you know, it will be beneficial to the beneficiaries, which is mainly the farmers, and also that can provide this food security. So it's kind of like a vicious circle. And what I thought at the moment is that in many of the countries that trying to kind of like doing a digitalization in many sectors, while it comes to the digitalization of agricultures, it has somehow this access to finance has been kind of like secluded or not included in the discussion. So I think the financial services authorities need also to be included in the discussions or in the regulatory making of the to enable the digitalization of the agricultures as well, especially for addressing the climate issues and also securing the food security to the nations and maybe even to the region as well. Just 2 cents from me. By the way, my name is Agung. I'm from the Edelman Global Advisory. Thank you.
No, I fully agree, but let me briefly say to you that agriculture is a sector that lives in risk and uncertainty, okay? And as such, for any banking system, it's a risky operation. So the innovations that has happened are linked to insurance, which still is in the primitive stage. So normally what they are doing right now is if you want to get a loan from a financial institution, you need to have already an insurance system in place. And for the smallholders, there has been complexities of access to insurance, especially if you don't have resources to subsidize them like in developed countries. But that's where the weather index insurance have played a role and combinations of weather index with traditional insurance. But that's the way to reduce the risk for the financial system. That's one element. And the second element is information. The way we score, the banks score the risk of farmers is not appropriate for the rural sector, for the agricultural sector. So that's why we have to provide new tools of scoring risk. And that's why we have been developing new tools that can help with the information that farmers have to assure that they are properly scored so that combined with the insurance will reduce the risk and will increase access. But this is a process that will take time, but we need to accelerate. And that's where artificial intelligence and information on digital systems could help to facilitate. It's a catalyst. It's not the solution. It's just a catalyst to reduce the transaction cost so that you can assure and make more financial inclusion.
And we have a question from Antoine Camtiza, participating online. Would you like to speak directly?
I think I can read out the question. I think there's no video to that.
Yeah, sure.
So I will just pretend that I'm Antoine Canitza. Thank you for the question. I guess that Africa stays behind in enabling digitalization in agriculture, which would add to food insecurity in the days to come. What can we do right now to allow more transparency in agricultural production? How can we support, in brackets, African smallholder farmers to tackle the future of digitalization in agriculture in terms of productivity, especially in today's challenging climate crisis, as well as more expensive inputs acquired with high price inflation? I think that question is not directed to anyone, so anyone here can respond.
So if you want, I can start first, and then, but I don't want to preclude others. So I see that Jitendra has his hand up. Let me know.
Hello, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, when we talk about digitalization in agriculture, we always think about how to make digitalization low cost, because that is one of the issues. One of the issue for developing world, because farmers are poor, and mostly smallholder, and also uneducated in many cases, and that is one of the major issue why farmers are not capable of using several technologies. Because I just want to link these things with other areas, like when we discuss this agriculture and digitalization, we also think about what we did in agriculture in the past, especially if we look at the CG system and the FAO, because we focused on climate smart agriculture in the past, and that is also one of the major issue where we build on into the integration of the farmers into other technologies like digitalization of agriculture. So we can learn from that one, because how we made the access to the farmers into climate smart technologies, and that is also one of this issue, because we have to reconnect these things and then build on that. That gives us a chance to build on what we have, and then also the smallholders and the poor farmers can learn from their existing knowledge. That is what we need to address in all these developing countries, because farmers are just, one day we're talking about climate smart agriculture for a few years, and then, after a few years we are jumping to digitalization of agriculture. Many farmers are confused. Yeah, so we need to build on, we need to connect these dots and then go to, okay, these are the things, and these are not, completely coming out of somewhere. It's also the path of the progress we are moving to. This is how we can think on how to make that one. And on the question, what I can say is like when we deal about the smallholder farmer, we always think about how to improve the access to technology. And access to technology, as we see from the past experience, we can develop by developing some sort of farm equipment, rental service type things, or rental hubs where we can get knowledge and then disseminate that one, so that we don't need to pay the full charge of that one, but we just pay pay as we get the service. That's the one way we can make a very that sort of hub in the village, like what Maximo said, like e-village or e-production. We can use that sort of concept like at the village level, where we have a small hub where the farmers learn these things and share with them. So that would be one of the best way, or at least I can say that can save a lot of cost of the farmers in terms of electricity use, in terms of internet cost, because even I say internet is costly for me to use. Yeah. So whatever the farmers in India, I live in Kalimpong, and then the internet cost for these small things is almost like $5, and that's a big amount for farmers. Yeah. So we need to look at prospects. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It is a very important point. We still have open questions here in the audience, so I'm going to finally give the mic to Donna. Thank you. Sorry for the wait.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think, first of all, I would like to just congratulate this task force for selecting this theme for topic discussion. I think for me, it's also very encouraging to listen to the keynotes from, I think, Professor Ari and Maximo as well, Jauh. And I was just made to understand that the worry of us of all to feed the world, the increasing world population is not there. But I think the concerns is how to bring the smallholders when farmers. When you say smallholders farmers, it's totally different from the smallholders in Germany, for example, and in Indonesia. I don't know whether our smallholders in Indonesia is just equally the same with smallholders farmers in Africa. But the issues, I think Professor Ari already highlighted the issues of this, if this to be implemented. We say, for developing countries which consist of, I think, 60–80%, I don't know, of the farmers is smallholders farmers. So our concern is to the smallholder farmers because they are the supplier of agriculture products in Indonesia. Let alone if you say that this is now opening market in the world, then how then we bring the farmers' production into the world? So this digitalization make them possible. But I know the condition in our country, for example, I don't know, this is, my background is agriculture, and I know exactly when we talk about the smallholders farmers in Indonesia, how does it look like? When Professor Ari just highlighted the density of the population in the specific areas, for example, and you can think of the holders of the area of the agriculture, the coverage of the land that they cultivated actually. So I think this digitalization, so thank you for Jauh who already provide us the digital kind of mechanism or technology provided through this digitalization on the precise farming, should I say. And in our concern Indonesia, we are not talking about precise farming. So, but I think digitalization can help us to move up to this direction. So previously in the long history, we get used to guide our farmers through extension workers. But because of the information, we don't have this kind of extension workers already anymore to take care of or to help farmers, to provide technology, to provide kind of guidance in doing the cultivation. But I think through this digitalization, Rector, I think this can be then, how should I say, we have to take this opportunity to guide our farmers, smallholder farmers, because when you talk about world agriculture and how to bring our smallholders to this world, then we need to bring the scale of our smallholder farmers to the economic scale. And this can be done through this digitalization kind of to help them to somehow provide the extension workers to this through this digitalization, and then technology can be also transferred. I hear Dr. Maximo highlighted how to reduce the inequality. Then I think this is the way of smallholders like farmers like in Indonesia. So I think very important, because from, I think Dr., I don't know the name, from India saying the cost of this, how to connect to this Internet of Things, to the Internet. So I don't know whether in our communique we highlight this issue for the importance of the G20 commitments, because we don't want to let the developing countries left behind in making use of digitalization in agriculture. So then we would like to see that smallholders farmers also contribute to the supply, the needs of food of the world. So I think the G20 need to encourage how to bring this rural connectivity infrastructure to be able for the smallholders farmer to make use of digitalization, to bring them to contribute to the supply of the world. So I think this issue can be, I don't know, the very important issue that the G20 countries had to highlight on and bring it into the realization of kind of, I don't know, whether project or whatever, especially to those developing countries who need this facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Budona. And being aware of the time, I'd like to invite Stefan Heinke to deliver the last intervention, and then we will go to Ibu Damayanti and Dil to give a short response to the interventions. Stefan?
Thank you very much, and thank you for this great discussion. I actually don't have an intervention, I have a question. My question is, what do participants think are the most efficient enabling policies to make agriculture more sustainable? And that refers not, I mean, and agriculture, not only smallholder agriculture, but agriculture in general. What do we need to do? What do we know about efficient policies in this field? Is this mainly an implementation problem? Is this an innovation problem? And where do we really have to look at? And I think that is also very important aspect, and I would be thankful if you cover that a little bit in the workshop series going forward. Thank you.
Ibu Dami, would you like to respond to that?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. Sustainable agriculture and policies. Okay, that's the gist of the issue that is raised. Is it a matter of policy implementation? Is there a policy gaps? Yeah, I think it. Maybe different countries have different challenges with respect to policy and sustainable agriculture. I may look at it at the point of view of a developing country. But from my experiences, what I see so far, well, in Indonesia, it seems we have lots of policy, and the policy seems to be already, I don't want to say good, but a lot of policies have been developed, and these policies have actually also include the smallholders, how to be inclusive also for the smallholders as well as also for the private sector. But in reality, when you try to implement these policies, then that's where the one of the problem arise. Either it's an institution or coordination between institution, and so policy is one thing, but the implementation needs a lot of coordination among government institutions and also understanding of the law enforcement, etc., etc. So I think we need to acknowledge that to be able to really implement sustainable agriculture, policy alone is not enough. For instance, just a very easy example, pesticide, the use of pesticide. And then we have a regulation in Indonesia how to implement integrated pest management for pest control. So it's there, and then if we look at integrated pest management, we understand about the minimum residue, et cetera, and not to use pesticides that are already out of, like DDT cannot be used for rice anymore, et cetera. But in reality, you see that those are not implemented. So if there are already banned pesticides, but it is still being used, who monitors that? Who actually looks at that and then take the company that is selling to the who looks at the company who should not be selling but is still selling at that, or the farmers who don't understand that they cannot use that banned pesticide. So who is actually monitoring, regulating that? It's no one. So policy is one thing, implementing is another thing, and we need to have a cross-discussion, cross-sectoral, how do you say this? Cross-sectoral, discussion about what is really happening on the ground. And I think that's one of the main importance where an NGO also comes in. University do research, NGO also works with the farmers, and then when there are reports like this, who should they report this? Is it the ministry or is it the police? So there are many, many, many gaps to really achieve sustainable agriculture. I think that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for your 2 cents, Dami. We are unfortunately running out of time, and we don't want to go over time too much. I think we will a little bit anyway. But any last 30-second reply to the question asked by Stefan Heinke about the most important enabling policies? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. I've seen you scribbling, Jau, so I'm assuming that you must have had some ideas.
Yeah, so it's a kind of combination of multiple questions was asked during this session. So there is a story about a very big digital extension service in India, which has 5 million users. And when we asked them, okay, so how many of those users are women? They actually had no idea, but they had the data. When people download the app, actually you have to log in and then it links to profiles that have gender. So when we look at that, that was only 5%. And it was alarming for us. So only 5% of women of those users are female, and they don't really get the benefit of all the nice information that they are putting out. However, the company itself was not really concerned at all, because they said the female farmers don't make purchases, don't make decisions, so they don't even care so much about it. I think that's really wrong in multiple levels. So here is a policy idea that I've been trying to see how this can be diplomatically presented. But I think that there should be some carrot and stick kind of policy discussion could happen, how we can improve gender balance in digital ecosystem and innovation processes in general. It could be government continues, as you just mentioned, very closely monitoring the gender composition of service kind of provision process, whether it should intentionally or misintentionally targeting only specific group of users. I think that a little bit high-level guidance and policy regulation will be probably beneficial to get to the inclusive digital ecosystem. I wanted to make that comment.
Thank you very much. I think we will have to close the discussion at this point, not because we're running out of questions, just because we're running out of time. But we would like to invite our sounding board members, Professor Dami and Dr. Dirahut. They are members of the sounding board for our upcoming workshop series that Agnes will tell you a little bit more about a little bit later. And in this capacity, and not only this capacity, of course, we would like to give both of you time for a short summary statement or comment on the session today. Maybe summarizing major points or highlighting what you thought was most important or insightful. And I would, like to give the word to Dami first, because she's here on stage with us.
Okay.
In 3 minutes, maybe.
3 minutes,
for the sake
okay.
of time.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So I've been listening with lots of curiosity, and thank you so much for all the questions and also the remarks. It's really wonderful to hear and all these ideas and the exchanges of questions and ideas. What I would like to say is this. First of all, it seems that, yes, we agree that in general, digitalization brings promises for multiple gains. It can deliver a change in efficiency and productivity and also sustainability at the farm level and also across the value chains. Digitalization provides producers better information to make more timely decisions. It also offers more predictable outcome. Then we have all this rapid development of the internet, remote sensing, multiple data, big data, etc. So those are all very promising for agriculture to improve the production and also hopefully reduce poverty. However, although the agricultural revolution brings these promises, it seems we speak a lot about small scales. So I really love that. A lot of concerns are being, Professor Arif mentioned that. Is it a competition? And also Ibu Dona. So it seems that, well, first of all, there definitely will be technical issues because the access is different. Social, economic, ethical. Someone said it, was it Maximo? There's also an ethical and practical question regarding the significant implication to our society. Particularly, how is digitalization could mitigate the impacts of digitalization on inequality, poverty, and environmental degradation, and also social justice. So digitalization is not just an issue of the technology, but it has values. Digital application and platforms have the potential to dramatically change the way the knowledge is being processed. So this is another thing. It's very important. The knowledge is being processed very differently. And this raises the question on how digitalization will require new capabilities, support decision-making, and interact with potential disruption and mode of knowledge processing. So I think we'd just like to end with this. Especially coming from a South country, the context of a developing nation, I would rather put digitalization of agriculture as an evolutionary process. Sorry, I'm an evolutionary background, so I use my philosophy here. Digitalization of agriculture is actually an evolutionary process that leverage digital capabilities and technologies to create values. I argue that these capabilities are very crucial and extend beyond digital domain. It's a part of innovation in general, and it's also part of the social and cultural process of the development of the communities. Enhancing capabilities at every level, from practices to policy, is important, and it needed ensuring that digital technology achieve their full potential values. Fostering co-learning, co-creating of knowledge, considering the power relation related with digital technology impacts, and participatory and equal access to digital technology in agriculture will be fundamental aspect to the future development, research and practices of digitalization in agriculture. So I think that will be my 3-minute. Thank you, more than that.
Thank you very much. Now, based on the presentations, all of the interventions and Dr. Dilrahut, would you like to also say the summary of this of what you think about the session?
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I'll just, in the interest of the time, I'll try to be very quick. I think the discussion was very interesting, where Arif, Maximo, and Zhao highlighted, like, like where we were actually in terms of productions. I think we went through very difficult times long back. We suffer from lots of drought, hunger, and famine. We have come a long way from there through green revolution, which means that we have the capacity to achieve and feed the growing populations. And now we have come to a point where we have made significant progress. Our production has more than double, triple compared to last few decades. However, like the challenges still persist, right? In the sense that like climate change is a big threat, and together with climate change, we also have lots of other abiotic shocks, which is leading to the disruptions of the global value chains, global food supply chains. So as a result, like we are not out of the wood. We are still like as Maximo highlighted, that agriculture is very like a risky business, and it's susceptible to climate change. So here I think digitalizations can play a very important role. But the thing is that we should not forget that, as Dr. Ariel highlighted, that we need to put farmers at the centers. We have almost like 500 million farmers across the world, and these are very poor farmers who barely lives on less than $2 a day. And these farmers are mostly like dependent on agriculture sector, which is very, very vulnerable to the shocks. So as a result, unless we put farmers in the center of our decision making, we will not be able to achieve what digitalization promises. Digitalization will bring in lots of values. It will bring in, it has lots of potentials in terms of like, connecting to input market, output market, connecting to meteorological information, machinery services and operations, like the AI technology that bring in the financial services certification. However, the problem that we need to realize is that how to make internet service accessible, affordable to these poor smallholder farmer. For example, like it's not only about affordability. In some of the places, like I come from a very small village, whenever I go to my village, I can hardly connect to an internet, though there is an internet, but the thing is that I cannot do anything with internet. So there are a large number of farmers who are like supposed to be connected, but yet they don't have access to the service that's there in the air, in the cloud. So one is that providing good quality of services and at an affordable rate. And secondly is that, as Dr. Ariel highlighted, most of these farmers are poor and illiterate. And Maximo brought out the point where they're trying to go with icons, using of icons, which is like, which doesn't need to have literacy. So we really need to have innovative. And if you look at the farming sector in developing countries, we have an aging farmers. The youths are trying to go away from agriculture. So we need to make agriculture more attractive in the sense that it brings in more revenue. And I think digitalization has to play a very important role. And I think in future we'll see more and more use of digitalizations in the rural areas and among the farming community. Thanks to the organizer, and thanks to everyone who contributed here. Thank you very much.
Fine. What's a word cloud? Oh, what's a word cloud? That's a very good question to bridge the time until we see it. We actually shared a link in the webinar, in the Zoom webinar. Ah, there we go. Oh. That's a word cloud. Oh,
okay. There we go. So we can see that productivity, sustainability are the big themes. Improve logistics, equal access. We hear that every time. Synchronization. Yeah, uplifting women. We also hear about that. The gender barriers. Yeah, peer learning also seems important, and leapfrogging. Yeah, Pak Arif helps set the stage about that, how we can try to bring up farmers from 1.0 leapfrog to 4.0. Yeah. Smallholder farmers. And also, I see that my colleague here, Elsbeth, has a long list of summaries. And in light of the time, would you want to deliver that?
Yeah, and I probably shouldn't because we are already over time. But yeah, I would like to highlight that I think the theme of Farmers 1.0 to 4.0 really stuck with us. Thank you for that, Professor Arif. And in that context, we need enabling policies for enabler, biggest word in the middle, enabling policies for all levels, and we need to enable the 1.0 to jump, to leapfrog to the 4.0 level with these disruptive technologies and also policies. But yeah, Javu gave us some excellent examples of technologies, devices that already exist and are in use, from the smart potato to remote sensing. Yeah, but these need to be implemented at scale. We need the right policies for that. We need to raise to the challenge, as Maximo said. And there's so many more topics related to it, as we discussed, with smallholders, farmers, inclusion of rural areas, connectivity, access, capabilities, infrastructure, the competition with labor, the question of ethics, finance, gender aspects. There's the social and the ecological side to it. And at the same time, we need to feed the world, especially the ones that are still going hungry. So we also need to increase productivity. So there's a lot to discuss still and a lot of good solutions to come up with. And with that, I would like to hand over to Agnes again, because we're not going to stop here. We are going to continue the discussion on this very, very important topic.
So thank you for this excellent summary. I'll make it very quick because that was like the very good setting the stage for to invite you here in the room as well as online to the upcoming workshop series. Because we've had a lot, but these 90 minutes have not been enough, and I think there were also some remarks here. We need to prioritize. We need to see, okay, what are the policies that we really need to put in place. So I invite all of you to a journey with us through a workshop series on the digitalization in agriculture, where we will take this T20 presidency Indonesia that has developed so many important policy proposals on the digitalization of agriculture, develop them further, and then bring this topic to the G20 India next year. We will have an inception and 3 workshops throughout the next coming months, and we will culminate that in the handover of our policy proposals to the G20 India, as well as a presentation at the Global Solutions Summit 2023 on the 15th and 16th of May next year. Please mark that in your calendar. So kickoff of the workshop series will be on the 19th of September. You will find more information here or just talk to Elizabeth and myself. Thanks to our sounding board, Professor Dami, Dr. Dill, Dr. Heike Baumüller, as well as our expert Stefan Heinke from Bayer for supporting us. And yeah, thank you so much for today. I'll leave it at that. But for today, have a good lunch. Thank you.